3, 2, 1. What's up, guys? This is Keith Kalfas with the Untrapped Podcast. We've got an awesome show for you today. Today happens to be, what day is it, Mike?
Christmas Day.
Christmas Day. What a beautiful day. We're here on the show with my Godfather, cousin Mike Leonard. Very important man in my life, an important mentor. He sat down with me when I was maybe 21, 22 years old, had an important conversation with me and said, Keith, I see us in the family have come from humble beginnings, but you've got two paths. One is things might not work out so well, or two is things are going to work out very well, and it's up to you. Remember that?
I certainly do. I certainly do, son.
And Tim Hortons?
Yep.
You said you got your master's degree?
I'm one class short of my master's degree.
And what is it that you're studying?
History.
You love history, don't you?
I certainly do. It applies to everything in our lives.
You know, I've heard that before by somebody who loved history, and I never understood that. Can you break that down a little bit and how the past represents, you can look back in today and all this?
Well, putting technology aside, that's the one variable. People are people. People have certain habits. People are going to do what they're going to do. And there's cycles in history, good and bad, based on people's behavior. You call it psychology, and there's a lot of psychology involved, but people are going to do what they're going to do. So if you study the past and you understand people are still the same, except for technology, you can kind of sort of predict the future.
Interesting. So the way people are, people don't change?
People don't change unless they choose to change, cognizant of the need to change. And some people, as yourself, have made positive changes in their life. Other people go with the flow, they stay in their comfort zone, and they stay the same way they've been, the same way their family's been, and they don't make any positive changes.
So some people are born into kind of like a matrix. It's a belief system, and the apple doesn't fall too far from the tree. What do you think are some of the biggest causes or catalysts of change when it comes to personal experience, and what creates that change? What are the moments?
First of all, change doesn't come unless a person can step out of themselves and look at themselves as a third person and say, that's John Smith. John Smith is doing this, and this good, but John Smith is doing that terribly. Oh, geez, I'm John Smith. I need to make some positive changes. Not everybody is willing to look at themselves as a third person. A lot of people are full of themselves, even though they don't realize it. The ones that are humble enough to look at themselves objectively and want to make positive changes, they can make positive changes. But a lot of people don't. A lot of people just stay in what I call the same old rut, year in and year out.
There's a saying I heard, you can live 50 years or you can repeat the same year 50 times.
I have to agree with that. I prefer to live 50 years. I prefer to live 100 years. And each year brings a new adventure or positive progress on a previous adventure.
It's amazing. You know, the saying is the definition of insanity is to do the same thing over and over and expect a different result. Albert Einstein. And I know at times in my life where I've been on plateaus or ruts for 2-3 years straight. And you feel like when you're in survival mode, you can be on this track. You say, I can't get off the track or I'll fall off the cliff. But now looking back, sometimes a plateau is really like in the old movies where you'll see a train going across. There's these big cliffs and mountains, and it has to just stay on that track because it could fall off the cliff. And that goes on for a short period of time. It can feel like forever while you're actually going through it. But once you go and then you go through the tunnel and you come out the other side, now you're on flat land again, or it's okay again. But there are times of struggle and tribulation when you're going through storms, when God is strengthening you. It's building character to prepare you for the next phase of your life.
Indeed it is. And the thing is, you use the analogy of the train. You just don't stop the train in the middle of the tunnel because you don't like where you're at. You have to keep your eye on the goal, whatever that goal is. And that goal, initially, you might not even see it, but then it becomes a pinprick of light, and the light gets bigger and bigger and bigger as you stay on that train and as you're going through those bumps and those hills and those valleys.
That's amazing right there. It looks like a pin of light when it's far away, but if you keep going, it'll get bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And now there is a moment, and for you guys listening, I've seen this in my life, where you actually, because faith, that's where faith is the most important component of all this. because it seems like it's so far away, it's impossible. But if you can even conceive, if there's any hope, that's hope and faith.
Yes.
They're very high vibration, where the opposite of that would be shame and fear and feeling worthless and living in doubt. And that's where you can go into mental illness and physical illness. But the opposite is hope and faith and love and light. If you stay the good fight and keep fighting the good fight and stay on track and just keep doing the right thing, it's almost a promise that in some way, shape, or form, you'll come through. And I've seen that happen in my own life. There were defining moments where all of a sudden I came out the other end and I was in the light and I knew it undeniably. Tears in my eyes, like, oh my God, that whole time. And then you start thinking, oh my God, if you've gone through a few of those tunnels and those things in your life, you start to realize you know what they are now. You have discernment. You can objectify them. You say, I've been here before. I know what this is. Keep going. Keep going. But now you become responsible because you're aware to become a leader now and to start showing other people and letting them know that they have that light too within themselves. Can you talk about that, leadership?
Yes, dovetailing off of faith, let me just conclude the faith issue. It says in the Bible, faith is the substance of things unseen. But you yourself have the example of being able to see it in your mind. Even if your surroundings don't support it, you see it in your mind. So that draws you to where you want to be. In your case, a successful entrepreneur that's helping other people become successful and better their lives.
Yes.
And you had a question for me.
Leadership. I notice here at Christmas, so you being my godfather, that's awesome. My mother chose you to be my godfather. I thank her and you for that. My wife's and her family are over and you're over here. And I notice the way you conduct yourself is you have a backbone, but it's also the combination of this chivalry, my wife's whole family, we're eating breakfast just about an hour ago, and they're very warm and they're talking to you and they feel instantly comfortable around you. And you understand how to conduct yourself with way where you have great manners, but also you're a leader. So you can say things and speak freely, and people receive what you say as truth without questioning you like, I don't know about this guy. Like, what is it? There's this thing, I don't know how to articulate it because I'm a lot younger than you, but you've developed this. It's a wisdom. It's a manliness. What is this going on here, Mike?
Well, there's part of it is simply a decorum. I'm old school. Man should be a gentleman. And to be able to lead, a person has to have the betterment of the people around him at heart, which makes a leader be able to be open, be able to conduct themselves and say things as you use the word wisdom. Wisdom is simply knowledge practically applied.
Ooh.
Wisdom is knowledge that's practically applied. There's the old street smarts, book smarts. I think everybody should try to have both, if you will, and care about other people. And if they care about other people, that leadership will naturally come out. Even if people don't think they're a leader, they very well may be a leader in hiding. And then they start to build up their confidence level. They get into social situations. And again, I'm talking to people that are introverts especially. You get yourself into a social situation, maybe one person, two, then three. Just be yourself, have the other person's interests at heart. Try to use that knowledge applied with practical application, which becomes wisdom. What's in it for them? A leader, it's not always what's in it for you. Leadership can be lonely at the top because you're thinking of what are the needs of other people. And if you're thinking of the needs of other people, people are not ignorant. They will know if you have their best interests at heart, and they will accept you or reject you. There are people that are pseudo-leaders, and what they are, they want power. And people don't accept that. They may have to accept through legalese or because of a power structure, but that's not leadership. Leadership is putting other people first. And if there's a job to do, like say in the workforce, there's a mission at hand, and you encourage those people, your team, to move forward toward that goal, but you're still putting their interests at heart. That's leadership, in my opinion.
So I'm picturing a pyramid and then the pharaoh at the top, but true leadership is we flip the pyramid upside down and it's the man or woman at the bottom holding the entire pyramid, all the responsibility. He feels responsible for every person in his family and his tribe and his town and his organization. And you can even take it all the way down to every thought and every action and every deed. And how does this affect the people on and on until after I die? Every little decision I make, and I don't mean to say that to put pressure on anybody because that's a very high level of responsibility, but I was talking to my brother-in-law last night at Christmas, and he was saying, well, it's the billionaires in a negative way that shouldn't have that level of wealth. Because I've been brought up to kind of believe, well, a free market capitalism, become as successful as possible. But he got me to see something else that I never saw before. I'm talking about leadership.
course.
If you take like a Jeff Bezos of Amazon, I was reading in a book that I can't verify this, but think about a large company like that. They consciously make a decision to go into another market and undercut the competition to the point where not even they're making it. They're losing money just to put that other company out of business, decimate that business. All those people lose those jobs. And then they get in, bait and switch, and then they turn their prices back up because now they've monopolized a market. And business is business, but at what level is enough? At what level is, and I'm not trying to get into politics here, but what I'm really asking is for your own personal life and success, how do you define and quantify leadership to a point where you have that discernment and you know that each next step you're taking is rooted in the right things?
Keith returns with more in just a moment. Have you been thinking that it's time to really market your business in a more effective manner? Keith has spent years testing tens of thousands of dollars on marketing and advertising, and he is just amazed that the 7 most powerful marketing strategies that he's ever found are surprisingly low cost and some are even free. He distilled down everything that he's learned into a 7-step guide and wants to give it to you for free. If you'd like to download the free guide, it's called 7 Steps to Marketing Your Business, then simply go to keithkalfas.com/7 That's keithkalfas.com/7 steps. And of course, the link will be in the show description. The Untrapped podcast continues.
How does it affect people around you? Every action you take, there's a ripple effect, like it or not. For example, this podcast we're doing today, the ripple effect on my case will be I'll be thinking about it on the way home. I'll be reviewing what we discussed, and I'll be saying, did I get that message across to your listening audience? And then I'll be saying, okay, next time there's a podcast, how can I fine-tune the message to get out to more people? So to get back to your exact question, sure, a billionaire can make 20 mansions or do a hostile takeover XYZ businesses, but is it in the best interest of the community? Is it in the best interest of the people around that mansion? Are they going to go homeless? Is he offering them above marketplace prices for their homes? And are they doing it voluntarily? If a person can see that and again, put themselves second and put other people first, then I think there will be a discernment as to how much is enough. And I'm all for wealth and millionaires and billionaires. I aspire to be a millionaire myself, but it will not be on the backs of other people.
I remember when I was maybe early 20s, and I was into these MLM businesses and Amway, Quickstar, Montevideo. I was running around in a suit and tie trying to sell bottles of juice to people and get them in my thing. And I learned a lot. It was amazing, by the way.
I remember.
And the leaders of the organization were Christians, but this acai berry juice, goji berry stuff, that was their product. They swore by it, relieved aches and pains and all that. But then I started to do some research and realize, oh my God, they're like going and enslaving these entire communities in the rainforest and building factories down there and making these people are climbing trees all day to get these berries to the juice. I said, oh my God, this entire organization is built off the backs of other people, of them slaving. And then someone else came in and said, no, we're actually going in there and we're creating jobs and we're giving these people, but then if you look a little deeper, giving them jobs at what cost? And then Walmart has a documentary, The High Cost of Low Prices. But I like what you're saying. I'm actually just thinking this out. The discernment, Tony Robbins said once, he said, you ask yourself these questions. Is this good for me? If it's a yes, okay, that's green light. Is it good for the other people around me? Yes. Okay, is it good for everybody else involved and will affect the whole world at large? If all 3 yeses are yes, then that's your green light to go. But
Yes.
if any of those are a red light, that's no, as long as you ask yourself those questions.
Absolutely. And if one of those lights are red, maybe you can make changes so it becomes green. Maybe you go to the rainforest and you sit down with the residents of that rainforest, the villagers, if you will. Tell them what you want to do and how it can theoretically benefit them. If they want to go along with it, it's of their own free will versus coercion. Let them know there's no fear. I want to do this, but if you say no, fine, I'm not going to destroy your home or change it to a form that you disagree with. So that's salesmanship, which is actually a form of teaching. Teaching and salesman, they dovetail, they intersect with each other. So you present that one red light to that rainforest group of people, and you hope that you can persuade them truthfully. You tell them what's going to happen and why, and will they go along with it? So then that red light becomes a green light, and then you, in good conscience, can go ahead. Unfortunately, again, I was talking about power versus leadership earlier. A lot of people with money becomes power in and of itself, but there's no leadership involved. It's simply raw fiat power, and they're going to do what they're going to do based on the fact that they have that income to do it. But the costs to the residents or to other people in their circle of influence could be devastating. Not that they necessarily care, but it is what it is. And we see the world how it is today.
You know, it's funny to dial that back a bit. I do YouTube. I make 2 to 3 videos a week for the past 8 years now. This is thousands of videos.
Indeed it is.
So I really, really wanted to dive at one point into full-blown entertainment and blow up a big YouTube channel. Been tempted before to make an entertaining video where I'm doing like this really engaged, inspirational, motivational speech standing in the kitchen or something, right?
Sure.
And I just happen to be cooking or something, right? I'm finishing a whole dinner and my wife's about to get home. But then all of a sudden, like the record stops and I just start smashing the eggs and all over the kitchen and throwing pie at the walls and she's screaming and it's pure drama. And capturing her freaking out too, and then I roll around in it and just go utter Jim Carrey madness, right? Because there's a part of me that you're smiling right now.
It's entertaining just hearing you talk about it. So
right?
Right now you're entertaining your listeners on a podcast.
So one funny thing is we don't have any kids yet, but I have little nephews. My in-laws, they have these awesome little kids, and I've put Sebastian as his name in some of my videos. I'm like, let's do this video where we set up cameras and lights, and I think we had cake or something, and we're eating cake and the music's playing, but all of a sudden he takes the cake and smashes it in my face, right? Because at that time you could make videos like that where they would just blow up and all these kids would watch it, right? And I was tempted to do that. So he smashes the cake in my face in the video, and then we're filming it. We're all laughing now. It's this funny thing. And I felt a little unsure about that, and I couldn't articulate why. And then as soon as we turned the cameras off, he immediately started taking the cake and throwing it at the walls. And like, he's a good kid. And then they're like, no, stop, Sebastian. That was just a video we were making. But he didn't make that connection. He now instantly thought it was okay to throw cake at walls.
Right.
My in-laws' walls. And then I felt guilty inside. I immediately had this shame around, like, why would I think that's a great idea? And I said, oh my God, that would be teaching children to misbehave just so I can get a bunch of views on the internet. That's bad. Or me making a video of me smashing shit all over the kitchen.
Sure.
It's desecrating marriage, right?
It is.
So, because some of these videos have millions and millions of views, and I am talking about leadership here and responsibility. Some of the biggest channels on the internet is the girlfriend or say the husband or whatever is sitting there and he's like packing his bags. She's like, what's going on? He goes, it's over. I'm done. He's got cameras hidden everywhere.
Okay.
And she's like, what? She doesn't get it. He goes, no, I'm done, or I'm seeing somebody else or something like this. And then next thing you know, she's in shock. Then she starts crying and now she's sobbing and she's screaming at him and he's acting it out. And I've watched this stuff before because I was like, what gets hits on the internet? So, and then he lets her know and then she's relieved and she's hitting him, you bastard, why was it? And then it gets millions of views, right? That's actually not funny. That's horrific to do something like that to somebody and also to do that and put them all over the internet. But now you got couples that are agreeing to do this shit with each other because they're getting rich off of it, but it's desecrating relationships and marriage. And
it is.
And so even as I talk about that, this moral compass inside of me is telling me that that's effing wrong.
It is.
Just for the sake of entertainment. So where's the line? Then you look at Hollywood. There's literally people that will spend an entire day making a prop that looks like a real human just so they can cut it with an axe and get the blood to squirt right so it looks the most realistic. Can you imagine being on a movie set where you're spending, $100,000 a week to make blood, guts, and gore and getting off on it?
And it brings people down. It might make a short-term profit, but long-term, it brings society down. It brings morals and ethics down. It just does. Hollywood, I call it Holly weird. Some things have just gotten way out of line. And as you were referring earlier, moral compass, not making that video, you have to go with your gut instinct. And going back even further in this discussion about what kind of work do you do? Is it lifting people up or is it bringing people down? Not making that video, but making this podcast, I believe, lifts people up. But the blood and guts type stuff brings people down, even though they don't realize it. Or the video where the boyfriend, husband says, I'm leaving, and hurts his girlfriend or wife, that's just plain abusive, even though he thinks it's funny. And even if a wife and a husband agree to it, it still brings marriage down as an institution.
Mm-hmm.
And you see marriages brought down, you see the countries divided, you see the world and the mess the world's in. A lot of it has to do with the breakdown of the family.
Right down to the family.
Yes.
Yeah.
And there's relatives and blood relations, and there's family where there's a cohesion, there's a love, there's a respect, where people are there for each other. And we have to get back to that. We have to get back to that. We're sadly deficient in that nowadays.
I feel bad for even these teenage kids who are depressed or thinking about, or maybe experimenting with drugs or thinking about committing suicide or something, and they can't even talk to their parents or the sense of community, the sense of trust. I just see individual family members fighting with each other. And I don't talk about the Bible and a lot of this stuff in my content, but I know that you're a Christian. And,
yes, I am.
And I share the same beliefs. It's like watching this play out as it was written.
As is written in the Bible,
yeah.
Referred to. Unfortunately, that's what's happening. But that being said, there are individuals that can still make choices to lift people up and not bring people down, even though, as you said, it's playing out like the Bible said it would play out. So we still have choices.
And the Bible got very specific talking about, or it is very specific because the living word, right? Even down to the individual family unit will be attacked, where individuals feel isolated.
It says father will go against their children, children against their parents. But again, for people that care, I'm not saying that anybody in your listening audience isn't going to experience this. I have a feeling that many in your listening audience, including myself, have experienced this, but we can still make choices to find those family members that have a belief system for family and cohesion and attaching themselves to each other and still having a good family unit, even if it's untraditional. And again, I use a 1950s paradigm family as the example.
My friend Joshua Latimer has this community he created called Honor and Fire. And it's about family, faith, and belief systems, and making like the family name, the Latimer family, and the Latimer birthright. And he creates all these things for his family. He has 5 kids, and he has one kid's name is Maverick. Every Monday, he spends undivided time with Maverick. Tuesday is Tucker Tuesday, and each of his kids, and then Saturday is his wife.
Sure. And
he says that the kids don't get upset if it's Tuesday because they know that Monday is their day. And his one kid turned like a certain age, and he took his kid to Canada up north in the wilderness for an entire week or something to spend that time to like pass the torch down to his son and give him that undivided, unconditional love and attention and masculinity instilled in his son type thing. I don't know if I'm articulating it the right way.
You are.
But he says him and his wife once every quarter will take an entire day and they do the strategic reset where him and his wife together write down all their goals and dreams. They talk about what happened in the last quarter. Where do they want to go? What is their life going to look like? What are their plans? How are they going to execute this? And they're together as a team, and they're talking and communicating. And I think about how powerful that is, even to have dinner at a table with your family and talk things out, dinner at the table. Man.
I remember giving advice to somebody I love about have dinner at the table with your wife. And that person took my advice, and I think they're better for it. And I think everybody in your audience should have a dinner at the table, put the phones away, turn the TV down, maybe put some nice music on it. I don't mean your hard rock or country or rap that you use to work out to, but I mean maybe some classical music or some jazz.
Yeah.
Something that's good for dinner music. Talk about the day with your family, even though your day's been hectic. Have 2 ears and 1 mouth. You listen more than you talk. You listen to, again, I'm talking to the men, listen to what your wife has to say. Listen to what your wife has to say, and don't try to just think about what you want to get off your chest first. After you listen to what she has to say, you address it, then maybe you share what happened at work and you want to vent. And that's called good communication.
Stick around. Keith returns with more of the Untrapped podcast in just a moment. Hey, if you're looking for what is probably the greatest software ever to run your business on, go to getjobber.com/Keith. You can create proposals, invoices, collect payments, even track your entire business directly on the Jobber smartphone app. And if you want to get a totally free trial of Jobber right now, open your browser, type in getjobber.com/Keith. And if after the trial you decide you want to sign up with Keith's link, you'll automatically get 20% off your first 6 months. So what are you waiting for? Go to getjobber.com/Keith. Once again, here's Keith Kalfas.
Oh, I love it. You're wise, and you're making it simple.
Thank you, and I try to teach. You gave me the privilege to be on your podcast, so it's my goal that everybody listening to this can benefit from this. As simple as I can make it, I'm going to make it. That way everybody understands. And you need to communicate on people's level, too. I hear people that use trade language. It goes right over the head of the client. They just lost that client, or they've insulted them. So keep things simple. I don't care if you have a PhD in whatever. Keep it simple in your language and your usage. You can be professional, you can be wise, but keep it to the point, succinct. Let the person know what you're talking about and know who your audience is.
Oh my God, you're so right. A couple of years ago, I thought that if I walked around the garden beds with my landscaping clients, I said, yeah, we'll fertilize the rhododendron and we'll prune the azalea, and then we'll do this with a hydrangea, and then we'll do this with the daylilies, and then we'll bring in some Miss Kim lilac. And the customer's like, woo, what are you talking about? Because I thought that if I said those things that it would position me as an expert, but I wasn't calibrated properly to what serves the client best. And I learned now sometimes I can just shut up and say nothing and let them explain and paint the picture of what they really want. And then once they feel that I fully understand what they want and why they want it, then I don't really have to say much, because as long as they feel understood, then the deal's pretty much closed.
People don't care how much you know. They want to know how much you care.
Mm-hmm.
That's what it comes down to. And later on, after you talk to your clients or that person you're trying to persuade something, maybe you do use trade language because it applies to them and they want to know what the name of that flower is. Then you can let them know how much you know about the Latin root of the name of that flower. But in the meantime, just keep it simple.
To add also something I just thought of, Grant Cardone, you know who he is?
No. Please enlighten me in the audience.
Grant Cardone is the 10X guy. He's now become a billionaire. He has a jet. Grant Cardone University 10X Growth Conference.
Okay.
He started out in car sales, but he's now become an international mogul. He's like on Tony Robbins' level.
Understood.
Not that level of legacy, but he's a big deal. And he's kind of a brash, overconfident, cocky type of guy, but he really stands for what he believes in.
Okay.
You can have a love-hate relationship with him, but he's all about no shame about making money. But he has this book on the closer's survival guide. He says you could do all these things in the world, but if you're not good at closing that job, that client, that's what matters. And that book helped me a lot. It raised my closing. But he said something interesting. He was talking about maintaining this specific posture around your clients. He said, here, for instance, this is just one example. If you smoke cigarettes, never smoke in front of your clients. Even if you're sitting down with a client and they light up a cigarette, it's okay. They smoke too. You smoke. You still don't smoke. Don't smoke in front of your clients. And he goes through like this whole list of like 100 things that make you become subtly aware of all these articulate things that increase the chances of the customer not deciding to go with you and hire you, or deciding to go with you and hire you. He goes through all the psychology, and I go down rabbit holes when I talk. I can't just say the simple thing, but...
Well, if I may interject, what you're doing is maintaining your decorum.
Decorum.
What happens, a lot of job interviews, you'll have the interviewer put their feet up on the desk, open up a soda, maybe use some soft profanity, and then their interviewee will start modeling them. And right there, they've just lost their interview because they're modeling some bad behaviors of the interviewer, and it was strictly a test to see what they're going to do. If I'm going to be interviewed, I'm going to still maintain my decorum, and I'm going to not put my feet on the interviewer's desk. I'm just going to sit professionally and talk to them professionally in spite of all the little behaviors they're trying to throw at me. So I believe clients will do the same thing. They will do the same thing without realizing it, and pretty soon, again, you started in landscaping. If you were doing that, if you're starting to use the same profane language as one of your clients, I'm pretty sure you might have lost that contract.
Wow. Yeah. I like that.
So you need to maintain your decorum. You need to maintain who you are as an individual, in spite of what's surrounding you.
I have this one client. He owns an airfield and planes and an aviation training academy.
Sure.
And we'll be on his property working, and he will literally come out with his hair all messed up in pajama pants with a cup of coffee and slippers, and he'll putz around cussing like a sailor, trying to be this funny macho type of guy. Right. And he is pretty funny.
Okay.
What are you doing here? I don't give a F. Whatever, blah, blah, blah. If my wife likes it, hey, I don't care. And I laugh, but I was thinking about that. I did not bend and start cussing around him or anything.
Good.
We've retained him as a client.
Good.
That's funny. But connecting all these dots, man.
And it's okay to disagree, just don't be disagreeable.
Tell me about that.
You have a difference of opinion. I see this in the country with the politics going on with the elections. Everybody has their opinion, but just don't be disagreeable about it. Don't use filthy language. Don't use violence. Respect the other person you're talking with. Listen to what they have to say, even if you don't like it. Have a dialogue with that other person. That's what I'm seeing in this country. You see a lot of violence and a lot of division because people are being disagreeable and hateful versus, okay, well, I see you feel that way and I disagree and this is why I disagree, but you're telling me you feel this. I respect your opinion. I'll have to consider it, but at this point, I'm going to stick to how I feel. That's how people really should be.
So that's a very clear-cut masculine form of communication, a form of energy and objectifying what I'm saying. Like it's just it's like a grid and a structure. You just can see it. I get that type of terminology from David Data if you want to look him up, but we got 2 minutes here. Okay, so
all right.
I've been practicing lately and I was studying a little bit of law that if, say, you're in a courtroom and the judge is pointing his finger at you saying, you this and this is that, blah, 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 like intimidating you, right? Well, you can just not be intimidated by that and just see it as a form of communication and just restate the facts or have your attorney restate the facts, depending on what it is, right? Or if you have a person in the public or even someone on social media coming at you in a very brash way, lots of cuss words and raising their voice or on the phone, what if instead of getting all upset, fighting your ego, what if you said, oh, they're just communicating and maybe they can't articulate the message and you just keep talking and responding back calmly?
Tied into what you're saying, there was a Jewish person in World War II under concentration camp named Viktor Frankl.
I just read his book.
He wrote a book, Man's Search for Meaning. So he sees the Nazis' tyranny and his people getting killed and abused and tortured. And he says, in spite of all this, I have a choice. There is the action of the Nazis and there's my reaction. But I have a choice. Before I react, how am I going to react? With grace and dignity or with fear and loathing and hate? I have a choice. And everybody in the audience, you all have a choice. That person cuts you off in traffic, or that person raises their voice to you, or shows you disrespect. You all have a choice how you're going to react. Choose how you're going to react. You have a moment in time. Use it wisely.
That is very well said. All right, we're going to end that right here. We're actually running out of time. So, Mike Leonard, it was great having you on the show.
It was a privilege to be here.
And guys, you can check this episode and all the other episodes out on Stitcher, Apple Podcasts, iTunes, everywhere podcasts are. We just hit 200,000 downloads. If you like the show, please go on Apple Podcasts, the Untrapped Podcast, and leave us a well-written, positive 5-star review. It helps the show. It helps our ratings. And we'll see you soon.